PCN is brought to you in part by the following underwriters.
Welcome to another edition of PCN. We've got a great show tonight as we bring you to an adaptive playground in Barnstable, which is the desired design for a Kingston school. And we visit an early morning exercise program being offered in the Plymouth elementary schools.
PCN meets up with the new fire chief in Pembroke, and our pet adoption brings us to the Kingston Animal Shelter.
Town Talk is from Duxbury, and we have a wonderful musician on set later for our arts and entertainment segment.
We begin in Kingston tonight, where the Council on Aging hosted an archaeological discussion. Here's a little something you may not have known. October is Massachusetts Archaeology Month, with events all over the state taking place that recognize the hard work of our local scientists. The Kingston Council on Aging got in on the action by hosting members from the Public Archaeology Laboratory and cultural resource monitors from local tribes to discuss their findings at the Hall Swamp site.
To celebrate Massachusetts Archaeology Month, the Kingston COA hosted several members from the archaeological community over the weekend. The state's Archaeological Month coincides with the final presentation of the findings from the swamp site. Members of the dig team will discuss their findings with the public, and there will be testimonials from local tribespeople. This project has been ongoing for nearly 3 years, and PCN has stayed close to the story for most of that time. The last time we met with Dr. Diana Doucette and her field supervisor, Aaron Flynn, there was a sense that their years of excavating would have been done in vain, with the dig site being turned into soccer fields. They were here today with some more uplifting news for those interested in preserving the area.
In the end, it's sort of a happy ending, even though there was trials and tribulations throughout, but we basically found Native American burial out at the site so that the project was stopped, and it will all be preserved now.
After the formal excavation was done, they machine scraped the topsoil and hit a feature that turned out to be a native burial site, just as they'd suspected and hoped they would find. But because there was still so much uncertainty surrounding the project, there was no eureka moment upon its discovery.
The whole process can be really difficult. There were a lot of different parties that were interested in what was happening there. So with all different voices, you never know what will happen. So I think that we're really happy that the site is going to be preserved, and we only dug 2% of the site, which is such a small sample of what was actually going on there.
Tribal Councilman Jonathan Perry had walked through this area dozens of times and always felt a strong connection to it. This discovery was less a surprise and more a relief.
Looking at the waterway nearby and just how rich this area is in general, knowing the history of this area and how dense the native population was here, it's not surprising, but I'm grateful that the town was able to step up and protect the site.
We really hope that people will come away with an appreciation of just the rich history that Kingston has, and what a great asset to the town that the Hall Swamp site is.
For PCN in Kingston, I'm Brian Sullivan. Exercise has many benefits to the body, mind, and spirit. A new program founded by a woman named Kathleen Tully takes these fundamentals of good health and brings them into schools. Children get dropped off before the first bell to do fun and engaging workouts that help to boost brain power and physical energy, which they then have with them all throughout the day. The program has had great success, and the Plymouth School Department, in conjunction with Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital in Plymouth, has adopted it into its elementary and middle schools. PCN stopped in one morning to see the program in action.
Basically, back in 2011. The hospital began an initiative in the community to really get outside the walls and work with the schools, work with the town, and try and do things so that kids, residents could have more and better alternatives and choices to promote healthy lifestyles. And the Blocks program and working with the Plymouth Public Schools is our most recent example of that.
This program was started by Reebok and the people from Box and Harvard Medical School reaching out to the district to see if we'd be interested in looking at an investigation study of how early morning activity can benefit students in the classroom. So we decided that we would give it a shot, and here we are with our students. We have programs across all our schools, all our elementaries and our middle schools, and we're really excited to see how early morning activity can really engage students and see how it impacts them throughout the day. So we're really excited. We have some great support from Beth Israel Deaconess here in Plymouth, Harvard Medical School, and Reebok. They've been fantastic in allowing us to introduce this program for our kids and our families.
Where there's no Box look-alike, if you will, in this community. They wanted to come in and have the opportunity to do essentially a laboratory where they could take their program and they would take the students that were enrolled and they could compare their performance, compare their results, whether or not there are any changes over time with classes that did not have the advantage of the Box program.
At this point, we have had the opportunity to have students register, and we're looking for a minimum amount of students, and I think we've exceeded that number in every building. I think the problem that we have is we can only have so many kids for trained trainers and size of buildings. So I think if we had larger spaces, we'd get more kids. We have at least 40 kids in every single school participating that are active. So I think that's the benchmark, and we go from there depending on the school.
Where we come into the equation is we have what's called an institutional review board, which means we're, quote, certified to do research projects in healthcare. So we are working with both Box and the school system to make sure that the science, if you will, that the process is valid and that the results are replicable.
The program that we're using with Reebok is very scripted. There's a curriculum for every day of activities. So when the instructors come in, they've been trained, so they have an online portal. They go in for the day, they figure out what the activities are, and it's very engaging, very energetic. There's music in the background. So as far as what the trainers have to do every day, it is very well organized, and we're really grateful for the Reebok Foundation for actually making this work.
Totally cool program. It's just awesome. They're going to have 2 different trials, September to December and then January to June. And the good thing about it is parents can decide if they want their kids in. They can opt in or opt out for their children to be involved in this program.
Right, and they'll also be getting a free meal in the morning, and none of the activities will actually cost anything for the kids or the parents, so it's a pretty good deal overall.
Everybody wins.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait to see the results on it. While it may not be on the same level as Stephen Colbert taking over for David Letterman or Jay Leno replacing Johnny Carson, replacing a man that's been with the Pembroke Fire Department for 42 years and has been the fire chief for the past 20 can be a daunting task. New Chief Mike Hill is taking it all in stride. Hill was named the official chief on September 14th, so we stopped in to get his take on his new position and give us a department update.
While the news may have flown under the radar, Pembroke's Fire Department now has a new chief. His name is Mike Hill, and he was the interim chief from March of 2015 until just a few weeks ago in September, when the interim tag was removed from his title, making him the official chief. Looking at the clutter in his office, however, it's tough to tell the old chief ever left. Replacing the man who sat in that seat for the past 20 years and was with the department for the past 42 leaves Hill with some pretty big shoes to fill. The new chief will also be taking on most of the same problems as his predecessor, as well as dealing with the day-to-day operations. How he takes it all in could define his legacy here at the department.
Well, right now we need to fill several positions. Going to be promoting a deputy, probably from the ranks of captain. Will be from the ranks of the captains. And then we need to promote a captain from the ranks of firefighters, and then we already have one position that is left open from a retirement. So then we'll have to conduct a test and fill those 2 firefighter paramedic positions.
Never mind the fact that the building turns 40 in 2016, or that the ceilings are water-stained and crumbling. With only 6 personnel available on any given shift, the department can easily find itself shorthanded in a hurry.
You know, if we get 2 ambulance calls at the same time, that's 4 people out the door, that leaves 2 behind. So if you get a fire as your 3rd call, that's 2 people going to a building fire. 1 has to operate the pump, leaving 1 person to effectively almost have to do everything himself. And if he has to perform a rescue, then it's just a recipe for disaster.
Getting more personnel means going to the town and requesting funds to make it possible. It's a request that Chief Hill feels the town will understand.
It is a financial issue. It's going to be a pretty big burden for the town to uphold, but it's a necessity that a growing town is going to have to realize and make happen sooner or later before something really tragic happens.
For the most part, a lot of the day-to-day is the same thing with just a new boss in charge. But Chief Hill does see some hope on the horizon.
Hopefully the plans we have as a department will come to fruition and we'll get that coverage back up in North Pembroke. At the very least, get 1 or 2 more people on shift so that we can handle that call load that we have efficiently.
Reporting for PCN from the Pembroke Fire Department headquarters, I'm Brian Sullivan. Parents today have enough on their plates that they shouldn't be worried about their kids sitting on the sidelines while the other kids get to play on the playground. More often than not, though, this is the case because not all playgrounds are accessible for all. Luckily, the voices of displeasure over this have been loud enough to call attention to this issue, and many schools are making the necessary changes to accommodate kids of all abilities. We met with one of those voices over the weekend that is working to open an adaptive playground for preschoolers in Kingston next year. She showed PCN a completed adaptive playground in Barnstable as an example. As many parents will tell you, not all playgrounds are created equal. But thanks to some concerned parents among other groups, that notion is quickly becoming a thing of the past. More and more accessible playgrounds are popping up all over. Debbie Grace and her group have gotten the wheels fully in motion to build one in the town of Kingston. We met here at this playground in Barnstable so she could show us what the town has in store when theirs gets constructed. A structure like the one you see behind me here with the slide is geared towards 2 to 5-year-olds, which is exactly what they're looking for. If you combine this with some swings and several other things, they've got their ideal playground.
I work at an integrated preschool, which our motto is inclusiveness. And parents with children who have special needs send their children to our program with hoping to have them included with their typical peers. And we do all of that in the classroom. There's so much inclusiveness in the classroom, but then when we get outside to our play spaces, that ends because we don't have a play space that is okay for them. And that's a parent's wish, is they want their children to feel included as much as possible.
The best place to start is from the ground up, literally. This surface you see here is called a poured-in-place surface made of recycled rubber. It's very risk and accident averse as it squishes under your feet when you walk on it. Next are low-to-the-ground steps and slides, ramps for wheelchairs and early walkers so they can meet their friends on the platforms and play with the games that may have been out of their reach from the ground. The swings should include a bucket-style swing like this one here. The roller coaster-style harness offers great support and stability. They'd also like to have a wheelchair-accessible swing. Having a music section like this one here with the bongos would be a nice touch as well. Of course, this all costs money. The ball got rolling in April with a $12,000 grant from the town of Kingston. They've since raised close to $65,000.
We just had a fundraiser at the end of September that gave us $20,000. And then we recently just put in an application for the Community Preservation Grant, and we have asked for a big chunk of money there for $150,000. This total project's going to cost about $220,000 to get off the ground and running.
They'll continue to raise money with their Buy a Brick program, where families and companies can buy an inscribed brick that will be paved in the pathway into and around the playground. As far as when the construction starts for this playground, they've recently gotten some encouraging news.
We had originally thought we wouldn't be able to start construction of the playground until August of 2016. And we've just recently learned that a special town meeting is going to be held in April in Kingston. And if the Community Preservation Board backs our project, which it looks like they're going to, we could potentially have money in April and the playground could be in place in May, which means our current children could use it for May and June. Summer school could use it for the month of July. It would be great.
In Barnstable, I'm Brian Sullivan reporting for PCN. Being a Cape resident, I didn't even realize that was right down the road for me.
Yeah.
And but the toughest part of doing that was going around and actually filming it after my interviews had left, because then I have to explain to parents why I'm walking around a playground with a camera.
Videotaping their kids.
But I actually told them, I was like, I'm not trying to get your kids on camera. In fact, if they're not on camera, the better. I'm really just trying to get footage of these
The adaptive space.
Of the space, because it was awesome. The ground, and there was a close-up of my foot. You have to walk on this to feel it.
Right.
It's so risk-averse that, you know, for these kids, if they fall, I mean, it almost felt like it was made of
Rubber?
like
It's like sponge? Yeah,
Yeah, they
spongy.
take recycled rubber and then they pour it down.
Right.
And
A lot of playgrounds are using that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and how cool that now everyone who, hopefully this will be adapted everywhere eventually. Playgrounds will be like this, so that kids that don't have any physical limitations at all will be working and playing in conjunction with children who do, and they will. It's a constant reminder that we are all in this together, and that adaptive playgrounds are just the next thing to help that community, and I think it's wonderful. A great story.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Do you know what is special about this week? It's Free Speech Week. It's a national observance that celebrates the fact that as Americans, we enjoy the right to speak our mind, to share our ideas, even if they're unpopular.
Free Speech Week is celebrated the third week in October every year to raise public awareness of the importance of this right in our democracy. Freedom of speech is a right all Americans share, so join the celebration. Visit PACTV.org or freespeech.org to find out more. Our pet adoption highlight brings us back to the Kingston Animal Shelter to meet Sunny.
Meet Sunny. He's a 5-year-old Chow Golden Retriever mix, available for adoption at the Kingston Animal Shelter. He wiggles and wags his tail like a golden, but don't let his bouncy personality fool you. Sunny is looking for his alpha counterpart. An adopter who is familiar with the Chow breed would be ideal. Sunny is being treated for heartworm and is expected to make a full recovery. He's affectionate, playful, has lived with older children, and seems to be fine around the cats and dogs at the shelter. Sunny is neutered and vaccinated, and he would just love to be fostered while he finishes his medical treatment. Then he would be available for a full adoption. For more information, contact the Kingston Animal Shelter directly by email at kaco1@comcast.net or go online to petfinder.com and search the Kingston Animal Shelter with zip code 02364.
Town Talk brings us to Duxbury Town Hall for an update.
Hi there, I'm Rainey Reed, the town manager for the town of Duxbury. Wanted to provide you folks with a couple of interesting updates. With the advent of fall comes the budget review season. We are now in the midst of reviewing the FY17 budget. The Finance Committee, the Finance Director and I are in the process of meeting with department heads to review their proposed budget requests and see how we can best meet their needs, which are ultimately the services we render for the members of our community. We look forward to a series of interesting and informative discussions with them, and we always encourage the public to attend. The meeting schedule for the Finance Committee is published on the town's website, and their meetings typically occur on the Tuesdays and Thursdays of each week, and they are held at the Senior Center. At the beginning of October, we held a special town meeting at the Duxbury Performing Arts Center for the primary purpose of which was to review articles pertaining to the lease of the North Hill Country Club. One of the articles was for the purpose of authorizing the Board of Selectmen to enter into a 5-year lease with respect to the golf operations, and the other was for a similar arrangement with respect to the concessions or restaurant aspect of the course. Both of the articles were approved. We expect to have a request for proposal of the documents available to prospective bidders by the end of the month. Just prior to the commencement of the special town meeting, the Board of Selectmen voted to open the warrants for the annual and special town meeting, which will occur in March 2016, which means that those interested in submitting articles for inclusion into the warrant should do so before the warrant is closed on December 1st. As always, our office is available to provide assistance to anyone having questions, concerns, or needs assistance in drafting articles. And finally, the dredge has arrived in Duxbury Bay. The last time the entrance channel in the Harborwood dredge was 1997, and we are very excited to have this long overdue project finally begun. We have been advised by the Army Corps of Engineers that the project will be completed by the close of the calendar year on or about December 31st. This is a huge project for us, and the town's very excited to have it happening because, as I said, it was a long overdue project, and it will certainly aid and assist all of the boaters out in the harbor, in addition to any of the aquaculture interests that we have out there, and certainly the recreational boaters, and of course, as a safety aspect, in the harbor master being able to get in and out of the harbor in a much better fashion. As always, we encourage you to contact our office if you have any questions. Our phone number is 781-934-1100. Thank you very much for watching.
Thanks for watching this week's show, and we end tonight with a wonderful musical guest.
We'll now hand it over to Maureen.
Thank you so much, Julie and Brian. So here at PCN, we're all about local news, local flavor, and of course, local music. So tonight we have on Phil Pacino. Welcome, Phil.
Welcome. Thank you.
So Phil, tell me a little bit about your own local style and flavor. Tell us about being a local musician here on the South Shore.
Well, being a local musician on the South Shore, it's an interesting experience. It's very diverse when you consider, how when you're driving down Route 3, how a lot of these towns kind of seem like they bleed into one another. There are just so many different styles of music, from like bluegrass to rock to funk, R&B, reggae. I mean, you can go from Braintree to Plymouth and get your fix of just about anything.
Great.
And it's pretty authentic.
Yeah. I love that this community is so diverse in its sound. What would you say your sound is like?
Well, musicians never like to say, well, I sound like this, but I mean, I'm a culmination of my influences. I grew up on a lot of old R&B, Motown. I didn't really hit the classic rock thing till I was almost in high school. But I mean, I love all the typical classics. I mean, I love the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Queen, all that sort of thing. And I try to incorporate a little bit of everything into what I do, but what comes out is just basically me.
Great, great. So you're working on some stuff right now. You have a recent release of a song. Can you just tell us a little bit about your project?
Okay, the song is called Live It Down. It's the first song I wrote after my debut solo record that I put out 2 years ago called Death by Lions, which you can get on iTunes if you want to check that out. But this is the first song off the new record. The new record's coming out the winter of 2016. The song's called Live It Down. It's basically, I think, something everyone can relate to. It's about that moment where you have something that's kind of eating you from inside, and you have to decide, are you going to face it or are you going to continue to ignore it?
Great, great. So you'll be playing that for us tonight,
I will.
correct?
Yes.
All right, take it away.
All right. Pull the shades, lock the doors, turn off the phone, cut the cord, don't let anybody in, at least not tonight. Tell yourself there's still time to change, but not too loud, 'cause that's far too strange. And if they hear you, they'll know that they were right, and they'll never let you live it down. So maybe we should just get wasted so we can laugh instead of counting our mistakes. It could see you, you'll never have to face it until those voices in your head force you awake. Oh, live it down. Walk the line as pressure builds. Convinced this is a pain that kills. As it lingers, slowly breaks you down.
Tell yourself to be a man, and hope in time they'll understand those reasons your life is spread out on the ground. And they'll pick you up, and they'll help you live it down, down. So maybe we should just get wasted so we can laugh instead of counting our mistakes. It could save you, you'll never have to face it until those voices in your head force you awake. Oh, live it down. Oh, live it down, yeah. Ooh, live it down. Hey, live it down. So maybe we should just get wasted so we can laugh instead of counting our mistakes.